The Fill and Freeze is an immediate fix. It's filling up those...
I'm Dan Ball with some breaking news. We want to tell you right now about something that's going on the I-10 freeway that looks like it's headed our way. Here's what we know. CHP chasing a big rig. Now, this big rig chase started nearly 2 hours ago, around 10:30 this morning, off of the 15 freeway. This stolen big rig has been all across the Southland, from the 15 to the 210, 215, back onto the 15, then the 60 freeway. And just moments ago, the man who stole this big rig hopped onto the I-10 right on Banning Beaumont. You can see CHP authorities right there chasing this big rig down the I-10 eastbound, headed towards the Coachella Valley. You'll probably recognize some of that roadway right there as our sister station, KNBC, providing this aerial footage right here for us. Yeah, there you go. You can see that mining operation. That's that plant just outside of Banning. So he'll be coming into Cabazon very soon. You see right there in the shot, there's Highway Patrol's single prop plane following this big rig. Now, here's what we know. It was stolen around 10:30 this morning. Police then tried to attempt to pull the driver over. We are told he has made contact with law enforcement through a cell phone he has on board. We're hearing reports from KNBC out in LA that he told authorities he does not have a gun, but he does not want to go back to jail. So we are assuming that he is a convict with a record, maybe on probation, and worried that he will go back after this act. Here's what we know about the big rig that he stole. It does have hazardous materials on board. Now, what those hazardous materials are, we don't know at this point. We did look up the trucking company, ACT, to see what they haul. There was nothing that we could really determine, but we do know the markings on the side of that trailer, and I'm not sure if the chopper will zoom in anytime soon, but you'll see those little triangles. If you're familiar with those on the side of big rigs, if you travel on the freeway at all, those will say fire, explosive, different things that warn people exactly what cargo is being carried. Now, this one has several of those little triangles on the side. And again, CHP confirming they believe there are hazardous materials in this stolen big rig. Now, the speeds, pretty moderate to slow at times, not really high speeds. Of course, because we're getting word that there may be hazardous materials in this big rig, CHP obviously being very cautious. They're following at a safe distance, as you can tell in this shot. They also will most likely not want to use, we're being told, those spike strips to try and blow the tires on this big rig. Now, if you're familiar with semis, you know these things weigh several tons. 2,000 pounds in a ton. Your average semi unloaded weighs anywhere between 60 and 80,000 pounds. Depending on what he's loaded down with, you're talking about a lot of weight to come to a sudden stop. So again, CHP playing this one very, very cautious as they track this stolen truck. Now, I'm not sure if they'll zoom out. Let me tell you what we're doing in an effort to get you better coverage, because we want to warn you, he's headed for the Coachella Valley in this big rig with these materials. We don't know what will happen once he gets in town with all the exits we have off the 10, whether he'll keep rolling right through or attempt to get off. So at last check, and again, I'm trying to tell here by the video, and it's a little tight, it looks as if he's out of Banning, and he's getting very close to coming into the Cabazon area or just past Cabazon, I believe. I haven't seen the malls on the bottom side of your screen here, but I believe it looks like he's about to Cabazon. So again, in just moments, he'll hit Whitewater and then North Palm Springs. Now, we have a KMIR crew on the freeway, literally driving towards the semi. We are going to set up somewhere around Whitewater or North Palm Springs to give you a closer view of the semi, also try and get an idea of who's inside. The only thing we've been told so far, it's an adult male. Obviously, he has some trucking experience. We have been tracking this before we went on the air with you on this breaking news for about the last 30 to 40 minutes, watching his actions as he literally led police on several different freeways. Again, if you're just joining us now, let's recap on what we know. This started in Apple Valley about 10:30 this morning. That's when CHP, San Bernardino County, and Riverside County all got alerted that a big rig with hazardous materials was stolen. Once police tried to pull him over in Apple Valley, that's when the chase began. Now, we know that he led police on the 210, on the 15, onto the 60, and then got onto the I-10 freeway. So again, this has been going on for quite some time, and again, as you see right now, we just updated that. He is passing through Cabazon now, so he'll be getting close to the Whitewater area in just moments. Now, this coming from our sister station, KNBC, they may know a little bit more than I do. I know they've got crews literally following behind CHP, just a few miles behind. I don't know if we have that audio. Our director, Andre, are we able to pipe into that and bring up our sister folks out in LA and listen in what they're talking about? Maybe they know a few more things than I do. All right, we're going to effort that, folks, for you and let you know. Now, this is good. They're zooming out so we can get a better idea exactly where he is. You see now CHP following at a safe distance, 3 units there. Then on that side road, that's that side road just to the south of the I-10. I'm sure you're familiar with it if you traveled out to LA and back. There's that side road that goes through Cabazon and close to the res there. It looks like they've got CHP units on that side as well. Now, our chief photographer, Eddie Luna's out in our live mobile unit. I believe he's set up, there we go. He's set up right there in North Palm Springs. You can tell the windmills there. Now he's on the westbound side of the freeway, set up live. When this big rig passes him in just a few moments, it'll be headed eastbound, and we just lost the chopper signal. Let's go back to our shot, thank you. We'll wait for KNBC to get that chopper signal back up, and we'll show you that semi. Here it is. But we want to keep this live, folks, and I know that we're interrupting regular programming, but let me tell you why we're doing this. This is a big safety concern for us here in the Valley, and we want all of our viewers out there to be on notification. So if you're on a mobile device and you're listening in or watching, be prepared. Who knows what this guy could do? Again, you're talking about 80,000 tons headed our way with hazardous materials. If he veers off the road, if he jumps the median into the other lanes, if he gets off an exit ramp and comes into the desert, we want you to be prepared. We don't know what will happen. So again, we're going to stay on this, try and walk you through it as he passes, let's hope, safely through the valley, and police can end this chase of this big rig. But again, we have no idea. We do know that the driver did make contact, and reports are coming in that he told them he did not have a weapon on board, but he said he did not want to go back to jail. So obviously, if you're on the run, whether you're wanted or he's an escape convict or he's on probation, this is something obviously that would put him back in prison for a long time if he already has a felony rap sheet. And him telling police he does not want to go back to jail, you don't know what somebody's capable of. So again, we want to hold on this shot. I hope you bear with us and understand why we broke into programming. This isn't your usual standard high-speed chase we see in Southern California, where eventually officers are able to do the pit maneuver where they come up and hit the back of the bumper and spin somebody out of control. They're not able to use the spike strips because, God forbid, whatever's being carried in that big rig that could be hazardous could spill all over the roadway. So again, we also don't know how much fuel is on board. You know, these semis, once they're fully loaded, if this thing was loaded up with fuel, they can go hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not a few thousand miles on several tanks of fuel, and they're loaded down with 2 tanks on each side. So we're not quite sure exactly how much fuel the big rig had when he stole the truck. Now, there we go. Okay, so we've got some new stuff coming in right there at the bottom. Pull our character generator, our CG off, guys, if you could. Let's go back to our shot. And okay, the NBC one, if you just saw that a minute ago, I apologize. We keep losing the signal. Of course, the helicopter is flying out. Heavy winds out there. Look at that. As Samata told you this morning, that's probably making the signal very, very difficult for the KNBC helicopter. Now, this is, pull that live down. This is not live, folks. This is some old video. This is when CHP was chasing the big rig through the Badlands on the 60 before he got onto the 10. He was going pretty slow. At one point, he actually pulled over. Looked like he was going to stop and then took back off. And we're rolling this taped video until KNBC gets their signal back up with the helicopter. Again, bear with them, bear with us. The winds out there are extreme in the pass area. But I want to point something out I noticed on the screen just a few moments ago. KNBC had put up a banner on the bottom that said they were confirming through the San Bernardino County Sheriffs, that's where the truck was stolen, San Bernardino County, that the hazardous materials are not, I want to repeat, not explosives. So again, because this company, ACT, when we looked it up, does carry hazardous materials, and some of them could be explosives, other chemicals. That was a big concern. But it looks as if we can confirm now, according to the San Bernardino County Sheriff, they're not explosive materials, but they are hazardous materials inside that big rig. All right, now you're looking live right now at our photographer, Eddie Luna, our chief photographer here at KMIR. He's set up live right there on the 10, looking westbound. Okay, and he is right after, it looks like he's right after the Indian exit before, yeah, that's before the Highway 62 on and off ramp. So he's right there at the beginning of the windmills. Now in a few moments, you should see that big rig chased by 3 or 4 CHP cruisers directly behind him enter our shot on the upper left part of your screen, or middle part of your screen rather, and then it will come right to left as it comes into the valley. So again, we're going to stay on this until he gets through the valley. Hopefully there is a peaceful resolution and end to this, and they get this big rig stopped before anything tragic happens with the hazardous materials on board. Do we have that signal back up from the chopper at all? Okay. So evidently the chopper signal is still out. They're probably experiencing some issues with the signal because of the heavy winds. You can see here in Eddie's shot just how bad that is. And KNBC is doing the same thing because they lost the signal. This is their shot out in Los Angeles. They're rolling old video and showing you part of the pursuit. At one point you can look in and see, can't tell if that's a white or Hispanic or black male inside very well. It's a dark cabin in there. We did see him at one point though on his cell phone. Not sure if he was talking to family, friends, or police, but we do know he did make contact with police at some point during this now nearly 2-hour chase. Again, the truck was reported stolen around 10:30, and it's 12:35 right now. Again, this is some video from about 25 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, as the big rig was making its way through the Badlands there on the 60, CHP in tow, following at a safe distance. This has been a very low to moderate chase, speed-wise. It has not been high speeds in the big rig. There's been no erratic movements or countermeasures by him or police to attempt to stop. There was one point, though, where he did slow down in the Badlands and pull off to the shoulder. He was still kind of idling slow and then took right back off. So since that occurrence in the Badlands, we have not seen any action from the driver that would lead us to believe that he is going to attempt to stop. Now what's interesting here, now take a look. You're starting to see traffic on the right side. Look at this. Slow down and back up. Now look at the middle of your screen. Here he comes, that white big rig that's above the overpass with the lights flashing behind him, and you can see most drivers are realizing what's coming up behind him and getting out of the way. A lot of the big rigs, though, in the front of the screen cannot tell what's happening yet. They soon will, I'm sure. But you see CHP in tow, and here comes the big rig, folks. This is right at the I-10 and 62 interchange that our camera is pointed at. We are going to stay on this throughout the chase, through our desert. If it goes all the way through our desert, whether he heads south towards the Salton Sea or continues east towards Phoenix, we will stay on it as long as we can with our signal to make sure that Valley residents are safe as this big rig with hazardous materials rolls through our valley on the I-10. Again, guys in the back, do we know, is that chopper signal back up from KNBC, or do we lose that helicopter entirely? Okay, so that signal's down right now, folks. We apologize. The aerials are down, but again, our cameraman, Eddie Luna, our chief photog out there on the freeway, he is looking westbound at the eastbound lanes of the I-10, and it appears that he's slowed up because he was moving a lot faster earlier, and it's taken quite some time now. Oh, there, okay. So now he just got on the 62. There goes the semi. If Eddie pans, I think we're going to lose the shot. Okay, he's not coming through the valley, it looks like. He just turned on to Highway 62. Eddie's going to get panned over there if he can. Guys, can we let him know? Did he see where the semi went? And I don't think we can get a shot over that little hillside where our photographer's set up. I think he's standing on the hill, and I don't think he can shoot over it. All right, so right now, that big rig got on the 62, is headed northbound towards Morongo Valley and Yucca Valley in the high desert. So again, now not coming through the desert. It looked as if he was going to stay on the 10, but now he has turned onto the 62. And yeah, as I suspected, our photographer there, maybe guys, can we have him? I know our mobile unit is live and mobile. He can track video while he's moving. Can we get him back in the car and get him on the roadway following that big rig? We'll probably lose signal, obviously, once we go through the curves on the 62, but maybe we can have our photographer follow at a safe distance with CHP to see what happens. For our viewers up in the high desert now, if you're watching over the air, I know folks do watch up there, this big rig now headed your way unless he makes another turnoff. Of course, there is about, what, two roadways that he could turn off and go into Desert Hot Springs if he does not continue up the 62 into the high desert. Now, right now, you're looking at video from moments ago, this big rig, as it was going down the I-10 and headed towards the desert. So if there is any good news to report right now for you, the folks out there in the valley, we have averted could have been a small crisis here if this big rig carrying these hazardous materials would have flipped over and crashed or exploded in our valley. But he turned last minute here and went up the 62 towards the high desert. I'm trying to get confirmation right now from our folks in the back to see if KNBC is still over top of the big rig, even though the signal's not coming through with the chopper. They may be able to relate to me whether or not he turns off on one of those side roads. I believe, is that Indian Canyon that turns into and connects to the 62. If you follow Indian North all the way, it goes through DHS and then curves to the left and connects back onto the 62 at the base there. He could turn there. Now, are we back live, guys, or is this previous video? That looks like the Badlands still. Yeah, that's not the curves in the 62. Okay, so again, this is video that KNBC shot earlier as he was winding through the Badlands. So again, I'm trying to get confirmation for you folks on whether or not he has turned off the 62 towards Desert Hot Springs, or if he has continued on the 62 up through Morongo Valley, which would then lead him into, of course, Yucca Valley, Joshua Tree, and 29 Palms. So again, we're still waiting word on that. While we wait on that, see if we can get a live signal back either from our photographer chasing behind or KNBC's helicopter. Let me recap as you look at some of this video. If you're just joining us right now, here's what we know. About 2 hours ago, around 10:30 in Apple Valley, in an unincorporated area, a commercial area, a big rig was reported stolen. CHP, along with San Bernardino County Sheriffs, began chasing the stolen big rig. Now, this guy went on all kinds of freeways. We're hearing reports that he was on the 210, he was on the 15, he was on the 60, and then eventually on the I-10, as you saw here live on KMIR, and then turned onto Highway 62. This moderate to slow speed chase has lasted now for over 2 hours. We believe there is only one soul on board, and that is the person who robbed and stole this pickup truck, or this semi rather, pardon me. Now we know that a big rig weighs several tons, so you're talking about 80,000 pounds or so. Okay, is this live, guys? Okay, let's get the live bug back up there so we can let them know this is live. Now, it looks as if, and if KNBC zooms out, I'll be able to tell you, he has not entered the curves yet. I think that was one of the intersections there on the 62 where he still could have turned off into Desert Hot Springs. So let's watch and see if he decides to make another turn to evade police or if he continues up into the high desert. But right now, this stolen big rig with the CHP following close behind, this is live breaking news. He's headed northbound on Highway 62. And we're just going to watch here a few moments and see what this driver does. If you just tuned in, we do know the driver had been in contact with police, either directly through a cell phone. We saw him talking on one there in the cab of that semi, or maybe he related through friends or family that related to police. But he told them he did not have a gun on board, but he also said he was not going back to jail. Now you see CHP's fixed wing single prop plane there. That's California High Patrol following high above. They've got several of their, looks like SUV cruisers right behind him. Lights on, slow speed to moderate speed chase. It looks as if he has continued into the curves up Highway 62. I can't tell on this tighter shot. If the chopper does zoom out, we'll be able to tell exactly how far he has gotten on the 62. But again, at least for you desert folks who've been watching, and we were telling you and warning you to stay away from the 10, you're okay. He did not continue on the 10 into the desert. He turned off on the 62. So if you'd heard about this and you hit the roadway, maybe you got your smart device on in the background and you're listening, the 10 is clear. Okay, there we go. That's the last turnoff. There you go. That's that last turnoff to go into Desert Hot Springs. So he did not turn there. He will now be entering those curves. So he is bound for Morongo Valley next. Of course, there's crossroads there he could turn off in Morongo before heading in up that steep upgrade into Yucca Valley. And that may be a point, if this big rig is loaded down, for any of you that know, when a big rig goes uphill, it's quite cumbersome. They slow way down. They have to gear down for it. That may be an opportunity when he goes up that very steep incline after Morongo Valley into Yucca Valley, this may be an opportunity for CHP to do something. We'll stay with it here and see what happens. For our high desert folks, if you live up there and you're watching, or you're in the low desert here in the Coachella Valley and headed to the high desert, I wouldn't advise going up to 62 right now, northbound, into the high desert, not while CHP is tracking this. Now again, we're losing that signal there. That was, again, KNBC, our sister station, providing those aerials from their helicopter. There we go, it came back. Again, bear with us. You got to imagine it's very difficult for the helicopter pilot. There are extreme winds in the pass area, as Samara told you on our morning broadcast today and our midday, that those winds are going to be heavy out there. And you could see those just moments ago when we were providing that live shot on the 10 with our chief photographer, Eddie Luna there. You could see the windmills were just cranking, the brush blowing quite a bit there. So heavy winds, again, signal's going to come in and out. And I'll apologize for that. We'll try and bring you that if we can. Do we know, is our photographer behind CHP now en route following this big rig to the high desert, guys? Okay, so we do have our crew here from KMIR following behind the CHP, along with several media organizations from LA. As you can imagine, they started covering this story when it broke out in Apple Valley over 2 hours ago. So they not only have the aerial support, they also have ground crews following just like we do. We want to stay with this, especially for our high desert folks, and let them know what's going on, because they need to be prepared. Obviously, when it goes from the busy 2-lane highway with higher speeds down to the slow speeds in Morongo and Yucca Valley, especially Yucca, where I believe it drops to at least 35 miles an hour, maybe 45 through the city there. I know Morongo you can still do about 45 or 50. It's a little faster through there, and they've only got like one stoplight. But in Yucca, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, whether he plows through lights and traffic, or I can't imagine he's going to obey traffic laws as he makes his way through these small, high desert cities. Again, right now you're looking at video that was recorded earlier. We lost our signal. That's because he is flying right now, the chopper, through those foothills before Morongo Valley. Very windy up there, hard to get a signal out with the chopper. And so we're showing you some video recorded earlier as CHP was following this big rig on the I-10. This looks like part of when they were chasing him just outside of Banning and Beaumont as he was headed into the Cabazon area. Again, folks, if you're just joining us, live breaking news: a big rig pursuit started out in Apple Valley. It is spanned now about 4 different freeways: the 210, the 15, the 60, the 10, and now the 5th freeway. He is on the 62, headed up into the high desert. Now we're back on live. Can we put that live bug back up, guys, so we let folks know the difference between the video and the live? There we go. Thank you very much. So now, again, you're looking at live footage coming in. He is now making the slower upgrade up the 62 that leads right into Morongo Valley. This are the curves, if you're familiar with it, when you travel to the high desert. Again, you're watching KMIR News. This is breaking news. We broke into a regularly scheduled program to bring you this chase. Our main concern for you, the viewers, in the lower desert and now the higher desert, was that this vehicle, this big rig, is carrying hazardous materials on board. Now we can confirm through our sister station, KNBC, that the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department has told them that the whatever is on board, this hazardous material, is not explosive. So we do know that. We do know that. But that's all we know. They're just saying that this big rig and this company is known to transport hazardous materials. I would assume they've checked with the company now 2 hours and 15 minutes into this chase, and maybe they've confirmed what's on board, but they're not letting the public know just yet. They have just told us it is non-explosive. So that's good news. But what type of hazardous material it is, we still don't know. We don't know the identity of the driver who stole this semi. If you're just joining us, though, we do know that he has made contact with police in some manner, whether it's on that cell phone. You see him right there in that recorded video. He was on a phone. But he did tell them that he does not have a weapon on board, but he does not want to go back to jail. And that's all we know about this driver who stole this big rig nearly 2 hours ago from Apple Valley and has now led police on a wild, not a high speed, but a wild chase around the Southland, obviously rattling a lot of nerves from Riverside to Apple Valley, through Morongo, Banning, Beaumont, Cabazon, Whitewater, And I would assume as soon as we get back on the live feed, when the helicopter can reestablish their signal, we will see him in Morongo Valley shortly, because at last check, he was just going through the curves there on Highway 62. We can keep on this video here. Our assignment desk and reporters are handing me some more things here, some more information. Again, as I've been discussing about the high winds, that's one of the major factors on why we keep losing that video signal from the helicopter. As Samada told you, and I want to remind everybody out there, there is a high wind advisory in effect from the National Weather Service, and there is a warning for high-profile vehicles like this semi. Obviously, there is a caution out there that they could tip over in high winds. All right, now we're trying to get some more details on exactly how close our crew is behind this big rig in CHP. You can see a lot of rigs there, and people were pulled over, getting out of the way, trying to give this guy a wide berth as he went down the I-10 freeway. As soon as we reestablish either our photographers' live mobile feed from the KMIR live mobile newsroom, and he's traveling literally behind him on the 62, we'll take that one. If not, we are awaiting the KNBC helicopter, which has been tracking this big rig for quite some time. And I believe we do not, both signals are down right now, correct, guys? Okay. Just getting word from our producers and technical staff in the back here that we have lost both live signals. Again, folks, bear with us. You're talking about major winds out there, mountains, curvy roads. It's a bit difficult to obviously maintain a vehicle, maintain a helicopter, and provide you with live video. All right. Okay, I'm getting word right now from KNBC that he is in Morongo Valley, and he is stopped right in the middle of Morongo Valley. Again, we're going to try and get you this video, but the big rig has come to a stop in Morongo Valley. Still getting word here in my ear. Okay, so we have a bandit here, a big rig bandit who obeys traffic laws somewhat. From what I'm being told, and I wish we could have shown it to you, he actually stopped at the light in Morongo and then kept going. He is proceeding up Highway 62 towards Yucca Valley, and there's that one light there by the couple gas stations in Morongo. If you're familiar with that small town, he actually stopped, but not long enough, obviously, for CHP to apprehend him, took back off, and he is now continuing north on Highway 62. Now, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. This is the big incline I was talking about. This will slow him down greatly. And I don't know if CHP will try to then overtake him up this steep grade, but it will be challenging for a loaded down big rig to go up at normal 55, 65 miles an hour unless he's a very experienced driver, which so far we've actually seen that's the case. I mean, he's stayed in the lane. He's been shifting gears, maintaining speed. He nearly stopped while he went through the Badlands by Morongo Valley. He just stopped, or pardon me, Merino Valley. He almost stopped in the Badlands, and then he stopped in Morongo. Now, are we back on live, guys, or is this video footage? Okay. All right, that's video again when he went through the Badlands out there near Moreno Valley. So here's what we know right now. He is on the 62, northbound, just passed through Morongo, and he is making his way up that steep, steep grade of the 62, which will then drop him right down into a very, I would assume, it's the middle of the day, busy Yucca Valley. If you travel up there at all, I ride my motorcycle up to the high desert a lot. Stop off in Morongo Valley at Willie Boys, which he just passed. Stop off in Yucca Valley in Pioneer Town at Pappy and Harriet's. Cruise up the Joshua Tree. Know the area very well. Maybe you do as well. There's a lot of stoplights. There's a lot of traffic. It's a small town, but it's a condensed town too. And a lot of people are probably in the middle of the day here. It's 12:53 on that roadway. Now, I'm not sure if the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, which patrols that area in CHP, if they are already in Yucca clearing the roadway. I would assume so, but we do not have our cameras there live to show you that. But again, this could get pretty hairy and nasty if he doesn't obey traffic lights when he gets into Yucca Valley. Again, so far he's been on open freeway with no signs or stoplights until he hit Morongo Valley, and then he obeyed, and I wish we could have shown it to you, but we lost signal. He actually obeyed that stoplight in Morongo, slowed down to almost a stop, and then took back off. So again, I'm getting this secondhand from our newsroom. They're literally either passing me notes or yelling across the studio here to let me know the very latest as we're tracking it from KNBC while we await our sister station, KNBC, to get their helicopter back up. Now is the day when I wish we could get the KMIR chopper up in the air, but not available to us today, and the winds are just too great for our chopper to get up to. It's a smaller one, and again, as I told you, there is a high wind advisory right now through the pass area and for the entire high desert. So, and this is for all high-profile vehicles, just like this big rig. All right, so we're going to wait here a few minutes, see if we can get this signal back in. Let me recap for you, though, in case you just joined us. Here, let me recap. Around 10:30 this morning, San Bernardino County Sheriffs and CHP began chasing this big rig near Apple Valley, an unincorporated commercial district outside of that area. They got word that a man had stolen this big rig, and they gave chase. Again, that was over 2 hours ago. We know that he led police on a moderate, not a high speed, but a moderate speed chase on the 15 south, got on the 210, also onto the 60. So you're talking Apple Valley, kind of looped around, went in through past Riverside, came through Merino Valley, went through the Badlands, looked like he was going to stop, pulled over to the side in the Badlands, down to almost to idle, but then picked back up speed, came down the 60, hopped onto the I-10 eastbound in Beaumont, went through Banning, Beaumont, Cabazon, Whitewater, and right before he got to North Palm Springs, he hopped on Highway 62. He headed north. He went through Morongo Valley. He attempted to stop for the stoplight, then went through. He's up the incline and now should be in Yucca Valley. We're trying to reestablish that live shot from KNBC's helicopter, or our live shot on the ground. We have our mobile newsroom and our chief photographer, Eddie Luna, following close behind CHP. And if he gets up there and can get a signal, we can bring you that live. But again, he should be entering Yucca Valley. We don't have any word on the identity of this man. We just know there, right now anyway, we believe one soul is on board. That's the driver who stole the truck. And we do know that he made contact somehow with authorities and told them he had no weapons on board, but he did not want to go back to jail. We also know that this big rig and the company that the truck's owned by is known for carrying different types of hazardous materials. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department has told our sister station KNBC that what is on board is non-explosive material. So we do know that. That's a good thing. But we also don't know what type of hazardous materials are on board. So again, this big rig chase now lasting nearly 2.5 hours. We're going to return you to regularly scheduled programming here in just a few minutes as we continue to track this. But for the majority of our viewers here on KMIR, it looks as if things are safe and sound for us here in the lower desert. We had feared when we saw him enter the Whitewater, Cabazon area that he would continue on through the desert. We didn't know if he would roll right through on the I-10 and head towards Blythe and Phoenix, or if he would get off. But at the last minute, he turned off Highway 62 and went north. Again, he is in the high desert right now, and it sounds like we are efforting, maybe linking up with another helicopter here in just a few moments to show you exactly where he's at. We can hear our phone, the phone in our newsroom, just literally ringing off the hook right now. I'm not sure if folks are calling in. I know that we heard a few calls and the scanner traffic was going crazy as this guy entered the beginning of the desert out near Cabazon and Whitewater, and that now about 20 minutes ago. I would assume, and again, we do not have the live shot up yet. We're still efforting that either from our ground crew or the helicopter, but I would assume he has made his way into Yucca Valley by now. No word yet if he is adhering to all of the stop signs and everything else. We do know that he did stop for one, which was amazing, even though we couldn't bring it to you. We do know that he did stop at a stoplight in Morongo Valley as he was passing through the high desert. So we don't know how desperate this guy is. We do know that he told police that he didn't want to go back to jail, but he so far has been obeying, which is something I've never seen in a don't want to call it a high-speed chase, But typically you do not see people in a stolen vehicle obeying traffic laws. He's kept this big rig in the lane. He stopped for a stop sign in Morongo. I don't know if he signaled when he got off on the 62, and as far as we can tell, he hasn't been breaking the speed limit. This has been a moderate chase, and it appears when you look at other traffic, he's going about the speed limit and possibly even slower. Now, this is some video that we've been showing you that was recorded earlier as he passed through Banning and Beaumont. Again, right now, as far as what I'm getting verbally from behind the scenes, guys, do we know, has he passed through Yucca Valley yet? Inching, okay. So all right, folks, hopefully we're going to get this signal here in just a second, either from KNBC. We're also efforting with our partners, KTLA out in LA, maybe use their chopper signal. We're working on that. Here's what I can tell you, and this is where I thought there would be a potential time that CHP could overtake him. From what our producers are telling me in the back, he is still now inching slowly up that incline, the upgrade that takes you into Yucca Valley from the base of Morongo Valley. Now, we just told you moments ago when we lost the signal, that had to be over 10, 15 minutes that he'd passed through Morongo. It doesn't take 10 or 15 minutes to get up that upgrade in a car. But if you're not that familiar with a semi and how to shift and run the gears, it's a slow climb for any educated, CDL driver, the guys that hold that commercial driver's license. And I've taken this road, I'm sure you have as well, out there, many of you viewers, where, you know, you've got to push the pedal down a little extra on your car to get up that upgrade to maintain 55 to 60 miles an hour. And for big rigs, they typically stay in the right lane, and even if they're, you know, they've got the hammer down, they still can't go that fast. So if you've got a driver that's not as experienced, he may not be able to get up that incline, but at a very, very slow snail's pace. And if that's the case, this may be an opportunity for CHP to stop him. Again, we are still waiting on those helicopters. It looks like we will not get the signals. The winds are just too much for those choppers to reestablish signal. So unfortunately, folks, we're going to have to let this one go right now because we cannot reestablish that signal to get back behind that big rig. But again, for everyone here in the Coachella Valley, he did not come through the valley. He turned on Highway 62 and went up. If you just joined us, let me recap real fast before we give it back to the regularly scheduled programming here at 1:02 on a Tuesday afternoon. Here's what we know. 2.5 hours ago at 10:30, that big rig you see right there in this video was stolen from a commercial area outside of Apple Valley. Driver of the rig, we do not know his identity, but we do know that he told authorities somehow, either through his cell phone, through family or friends, or directly to police, that he did not have a weapon or gun on board, but he did not want to go back to jail. We don't know how much fuel's on board, how far he can go. We do know there is a hazardous material substance on board in this big rig, but we have been told by San Bernardino County sheriffs that they have contacted the carrier and owner of the truck, and it is non-explosive, so that's the good news. Now, this all began near the 15, went on to the 210, the 60, the 10, and now the 62. And as of now, as I sign off and we throw it back to regular programming, we know this big rig driver is still on the 62, slowly, and I say slowly, inching up Highway 62 towards Yucca Valley. Our crew is directly behind them on the ground. We will continue to track it until it comes to an end, and we will post updates on our homepage at KMIR.com and on social media. So check out Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We will let you know once this big rig pursuit comes to an end. And of course, tune in tonight, first at 4:35 and 6. We'll have a recap of the day's events here with this big rig chase and tell you how it all ended. But again, as I throw it back to Days of Our Lives, you can continue to track this story on social media and on our homepage. We will be sure to give you minute-by-minute updates as we will continue in the newsroom to track this chase. If for some reason something happens very dramatic and we get our live signals back up, we will cut back into program and bring that to you. Now we now return you to Days of Our Lives.